Hi, thanks for being with me today. I hope you're keeping well. Just thought I'd have a conversation with you today about a really simple way to experience joy for today and for every day. Joy is something that we all want, isn't it? We want to feel joyful. I think joy is different from happiness. Happiness, it seems to me, is dependent on external circumstances. Things that happen to us can dictate whether we are happy or whether we're sad, and there's not much we can do about that. But joy is something different. I think joy is found within and is developed within. Joy, I think, is a choice. It's a choice of how we respond to the external forces on our life. Joy is the choice that we can make to respond to what happens to us for good and for bad. In Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, Paul said, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. So Paul, when he wrote those words, was actually in prison. It was about AD 62. He was in prison for the faith and he was about to be martyred for the faith. And yet, even in that situation, he was able to say, rejoice in the Lord always. Paul knew that he could make a choice about how he would respond to the external circumstances happening to him. So if you and I want to choose joy, what do we need to focus on? Well, I think there's three things that I want to encourage you to focus on today and each and every day in order to experience joy as your base way of being. And the first is to focus on gratitude. Now, let me ask you a question, and I want you to give me a very honest answer here. Do you focus more on what you have, or do you tend to focus more on what is missing in your life? Have a think about that for a moment. Your emotional energy, does it go on what you have or what you're missing? I think so much of our emotional energy goes on what we're missing in life. We think about, we have a lack of time to do things, or we might think that we have a lack of money, or that we have a lack of opportunity in life. We might feel a bit sad or depressed about the lack of likes on our social media or YouTube videos. We might think that we have a lack of energy to do things. And an awful lot of our time is spent focusing in on lack or scarcity. And it's interesting, I think, when we go right back to the Garden of Eden and we think about Adam and Eve. The original sin, to my mind, was not pride. The original sin really was a focus on lack. They had all of the trees and all of that fruit in the beautiful Garden of Eden that they could have eaten, but they decided to focus on the one thing they lacked, the one fruit that they weren't allowed to have, and they chose to eat that instead. So I think the idea of focusing in on lack, the thing that is missing in our lives, is kind of hardwired into our sort of sinful DNA. But if we want to know joy in our lives, then instead, I think rather than focusing in on what's missing in our lives, we need to develop an attitude of gratitude. The power of gratitude is completely transformative. The power of gratitude in our lives is an extraordinary power to hold. And in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18, Paul says, give thanks in all circumstances. And I think that if we are more given to give thanks to God for what we have, rather than to bemoan what we're missing or what we're lacking in life, then that is a real focus for us in order to develop joy in our lives. So the first thing I would say, if you want to experience joy in your life today and every day, is focus on gratitude, focus on the good things that you have, the good things that God has given you, the relationships, the money, the housing, the food, the various opportunities that you have in life. Give thanks to God for all of those, rather than bemoaning what you don't have. That's the first focus for the source of joy. The second one, I would say, is focusing on what you can control rather than what you can't control. Now, I'm going to ask you a question again. Give me an honest answer to this. Do you tend to focus in more in life on what you can control or what you can't control? We spend a lot of time and energy, don't we, worrying about the future, which we can't control. We spend a lot of time perhaps catastrophizing the future as well. We worry a lot about opinions that people have of us, what other people are thinking about us. We can't control that either. We spend a lot of time wondering, what if this happens? What if that happens? And it takes a lot of emotion and it takes a lot of energy from out of us. You know, we can't control these things. So what is the point in focusing in on them and worrying about them too much? Jesus says in Matthew chapter 6, verse 34, do not be anxious about tomorrow. Well, that's an entirely pragmatic instruction to us, because there's no point worrying about tomorrow. We don't even know if we're going to have a tomorrow. Far better, if we want to feel joy in our lives, to focus on what we can control. Now, what can we control? There's only two things really you and I can control. The first is our attitude, and the second is our actions. We can control how we respond to external circumstances and events. That's our actions. And we can control how we engage with external events as well. So our attitude and our actions, how we respond to and how we engage with the things that happen to us. Psalm 55 verse 22 says this: cast your burden on the Lord and he will sustain you. So there's no point worrying about the future. There's no point worrying about tomorrow or what people think of us or all these other things that we can't control. Instead, just focus today on how you respond to what's going on in your world and how you engage with other people and the externals. And then that will free up your energy so that you will then be able to know joy more deeply in your life. And then thirdly, I would say, if you want to know joy, experience joy this day and every day, I would say focus on the present, not on the past or the future. Again, going to ask you the question, give me an honest answer to this. How much more do you focus on the present, or are most of your thoughts geared towards the past or the future? The present is all we have, of course. We can't do anything about what happened in the past, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. The only thing we've got is the present. So that's the only thing in some ways really worth putting energy into. If we focus too much on the past, then we can either wallow in nostalgia about how much better things used to be in the past. And then that leads us very often to become dissatisfied with the present. The other way of focusing too much on the past, of course, is to keep replaying in our mind the sins we committed, the mistakes we've made, and never really to free ourselves from the things we've done wrong in the past. Too much energy, too much focus focus goes on that, because through the cross of Christ, we have been freed from the power of sin and error in our lives. And if we focus on the future too much, then we might tend to worry about the future. We might tend to go down rabbit holes of thought, trying to prepare for every eventuality. There is a way, of course, to focus on the past, and that is to focus on it so that we can learn objectively from the past, so we can make the present better. In Revelation chapter 2, verse 5, the risen Christ says to the church at Ephesus, "Consider how far you have fallen," not so that they would wallow in their past errors, but so that they could objectively realize how far their faith had fallen, and they would then amend for the present. And of course, it is right to plan for growth for the future. Jesus in Luke chapter 14 gives the parable of building the tower. He gives the parable of the king going to war and says, of course, strategic planning needs to take place to build a sensible future. So there, it is right to think about the past. It is right to think about the future. But if we want to know joy and peace, then we do need to live predominantly in the present. Psalm 46 verse 10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." And if we can live in the present moment, not seeking to control things that we can't control, focusing in on gratitude for what we have rather than focusing in on what's missing and our lack. If we can just sit with God with hearts full of gratitude, giving up control to him and focused in on this moment, as we are encouraged to do in Psalm 46 verse 10, then that is the place where you and I discover joy. That is the place where we can experience intimacy with God. So, just to say to you today then, where will your focus be today? If you choose the right focus today and the right focus every day, then that is how you can choose joy for your life and experience joy today and every day into the future. Focus appropriately and choose joy. I hope that's been helpful for you. Thank you for giving me so much of your time today. I always really appreciate it. I know you're very busy. I hope that's been helpful, and I look forward to being with you again really soon. Take care. Bye.